I should have changed the name. Okay, I'll change it later. Now, let me just remove this so we don't get feedback. Put this back. And we'll do this, okay? I was teaching music and I got a job offer to teach music production, which is what I studied in my undergrad. And when I got there, it was actually sound design. And I had no idea of what went into it. And I started researching about it and I fell in love. I learned sound is divided in production and post-production. In production, a team records all the sounds on the film set. And in post-production, dialogue is edited, sound effects like gunshots or ambiances with birds and wind are recorded and edited. The sounds related to characters like footsteps or other objects are recorded in sync during Foley, and if needed, new lines of dialogue are recorded to replace production ones. At the end, everything is put together and mixed to highlight what we want the audience to listen to. So I'm making a documentary about women in sound. Women only represent 5% of the people that work in the industry. I've always been interested about the role women have. I come from Colombia. My background is in music and in the music industry. In Colombia, there are not a lot of women. And then I moved here to study sound design and I realized the same happened here. This drove me to make a documentary about women in sound. Kay Ross is a name you may not know, but she was the first woman to win an Academy Award for sound. I went on a journey to learn about her work as well as the stories of other women who have worked in sound, seeing how far they have come and how things have changed since the 50s.
When I got my letter of acceptance for Berklee, there was a PS at the bottom which said basically that they had no dormitory facilities for women.
I had terrific support and I had great mentors and terrific support. And at the time, there really were no other women. There was Kay Rose, but I never worked with Kay. So I didn't have the advantage of having that experience.
So my mom, Kay Rose, was an award-winning sound editor. And she was the first woman to win an Oscar for sound, which is back there, over there somewhere on the mantle. So one of the funny things when I was little, my mom would come home from work and the first thing she would do besides kiss me and say hello was she'd go in the bathroom and wash her hands, and it'd be like all this like black stuff coming off her hands, and the water was so dirty. And I thought, wonder what she does that's, makes her hands so dirty. And of course, then when I got into film with her, when I was, I think I started when I was about 15 or 16. I was hanging out in cutting rooms. But the film, looks like this. And as it goes through a moviola, you're touching it and your hands just get filthy, especially with sound and picture. This happens to be a color picture. My mom and I worked on the river, and this is where she got her Oscar. His butt's all worn out. Oscar. They're very heavy, but they're very light when you win one because everybody goes, yeah!
The second award is a Special Achievement Award for sound effects editing of The River. Ms. Kay Rose. When George Lucas was afraid that dialogue editing was going away, like that people weren't doing it anymore, so he wanted to keep it alive.
The craft of dialogue editing, the craft of sound editing, and the craft of music editing are always going to be very essential to the creating of a motion picture.
So they were trying to think of who to name it after. And I was so glad that they chose Kay Rose because she was a kick-ass supervising sound editor, but she did effects too. So when George and Steven said it will be called, I think it's officially was called the Kay Rose Endowed Chair in the Art of Dialogue Editing. And she asked, could you put sound in there too? Because she didn't want to be categorized as a woman just doing dialogue. And so it's a very long title. The official one is the Kay Rose Endowed Chair in the Art of Sound and Dialogue Editing.
This is wonderful. Unbelievably wonderful. It's the fulfillment of a long-time dream that goes back to that first movie I ever saw. Thank you all for fulfilling that dream.
For my generation of women who have managed to persevere against all odds, it's really important that we stand up to help encourage and open the door now for young women who are interested, because it's still a problem. I mean, that we're still not in great shape in 2019, and given the world that we're all living in, enduring or attempting to endure right now with all the stuff going on, it's really necessary. It's necessary for me to go and sit on panels and be up on the stage so that a young woman in the audience, at least one, if not more, look up and go, oh, that could be me too, you know?
And it's a little surprising that there aren't more women supervisors, that there aren't more women mixers. And I think sometimes it might just be also a little bit maybe because the business has changed. It's not quite the way it was. There's not quite the ability to have the kind of mentoring or internship or apprentice situation there was before, because now everything is on a much tighter schedule.
I think it's, okay, I used to think when I would see things like, you know, there aren't many women in this field or that field or other stuff, I used to think it was nefarious, like men are just trying to keep men and they're trying to keep women out. And then I realized, and you know how I realized it? It was through doing admissions for college, for USC. You just relate more, I think, to, maybe not, but I think I relate more to the girls, you know, and to these young women. And so I would have to really watch, you know, okay, am I being, like, just be completely open to whatever it is and to whatever someone is saying, and don't think about, you know, the gender. And I'd be in these meetings and I would realize, I think more of the women would, you know, give positions to the women and more of the men would just be, and it's just a natural thing. So it's not nefarious. It's just like, who do you feel most comfortable with?
I think there are more women now. I think it is still in process of changing. There still needs to be more. I'm hoping, and I think it's going in the right direction. So I feel that we're moving the right way, and it will be more gender equal eventually.
And I really want to convey how important story is to sound editing. Because most people look at us and they see all the buttons and the fancy stuff and the computers, and they think we're just technicians. And we're not technicians. We're storytellers with sound. We're painting with sound.
It's a wonderful profession because you follow the characters and you bring this reality, you bring this human element to what you're doing and to the soundtrack, and we walk in sync to the picture, and then those sounds are overdubbed by the mixers. And just bringing all these elements to a soundtrack really helps the audience create a reality for the audience, I think. This is my bag of squeaks. So there's all these different kinds of, like that. This is a chamois. So you would wash your car with it, right? And I would say this is the main staple of every Foley artist. So if we're doing mud, you know, we'll get a bunch of these and we'll put them on the dirt and we'll use it for mud. If we're doing drips, you know, we'll use it for that. We'll use it for food.
So sound design is one of these things where you can be kind of a little wild and crazy and not necessarily mean to break all the rules as part of the fun of it.
I had a very wonderful friend of mine, a producer, who said it's time to play in the sandbox when she would come in to mix. And that's absolutely how I see it. And I look for people who want to play in the sandbox.
I think one of my favorite sound stories from when I was little was when it was like thundering and lightning and raining real hard, and I ran into my mom's room because I was scared, and I said, Mommy, it's I don't know, the thunder is scary, and she kind of rolled over and said, don't worry, honey, the mixers will fix it. And I thought, oh wow, these mixers must be wonderful people, because who else could fix something like that? So that was comforting to me.
I love what I do. I get to walk into a big sandbox every day with a lot of crazy, passionate, talented people who blow my mind and who let me create and paint picture with sound. And they pay me for it.
I always say, work on projects as though they're Oscar winners or Emmy. You know what I mean? Like, always do your best work, because you don't know who's watching. You don't know when the work is going to kick into high gear.
The Academy Award for Best Sound Editing has only been awarded to 5 women: Karen Baker Landers, Gloria Borders, Cissy Hall, Nina Hartstone, and Kay Rose. The Academy Award for Best Sound Mixing has only been given to Laura Hirschberg.
No, it's a different way of looking at things and a different kind of calm. And to me, it doesn't, being female in the industry isn't as important as being good at what I do. So I'd rather be considered a really good sound editor as opposed to being a female sound editor.
I just realized this year that I've been mixing for 20 years. And when I think back to the beginning of my career and my journey to where I am now, it is a different landscape.
I was on a panel at Comic-Con, and it was really actually a cool panel. It was called Hollywood Game Changers, and it was all women, which, for one thing, I never thought I'd be on a panel that was all women called Hollywood Game Changers. There was not a mention of women in the title, which was awesome. And the entire discussion was about workflows and balancing family life. And that's part of the problem. This industry is so out of kilter. I don't have kids. I don't know how people, men or women, work in this industry and have kids. I don't even know.
I filled in on a movie just a couple of weeks ago, and it was quite amazing because the last playback, we actually all kind of stopped before we started the playback because the entire back row were all women. It was me, so the ADR supervisor, the director, the picture editor, the post-production supervisor, and the music editor were all women. And we were all like, wow, this is pretty cool,